I heard you have very cheap gold here. Cheap gold? Are you talking about gold-plated silver? Yes, I'm heading back to my hometown for Chinese New Year and want to bring a big gold chain to show off. You know what I mean? A big gold chain, huh? Exactly. Something that reflects my identity as someone earning millions every year. Millions a year? Well, this one works. This one, right? Yeah. How many grams is it? This one's about 60 grams. Is it real gold? It's gold-plated silver. What does that mean? It's pure gold, wrapped around pure silver. Will it fade? No, it won't. Alright, how much for this one? This one's 4,000 yuan for you. 4,000 yuan? Gold costs 625 yuan per gram, and this 67-gram chain is only 4,000 yuan? That's a good deal. Exactly. Wearing this, you look impressive. The whole village will think I'm rich. Let's wrap it up. To save face during the holidays, I bought an old 2005 Audi A6. I thought driving it in the village would make me look good, but the car had too many problems. Within days of buying it, it wouldn't start, and I spent a few hundred yuan on a new battery. While the starting issue was fixed, I discovered a serious oil leak. Initially, it was a small leak every few days, but now it's gotten worse. I'm not even sure which type of oil is leaking. Everyone knows old cars like this burn engine oil badly. When I started, I could see the exhaust issues right away. Plus, there are so many error codes that the alarm won't stop. A mechanic checked it recently and found a long list of faults, none of which could be cleared. I originally wanted to fix it up, replace the interior, change the tires, and look cool in the village, but the repair costs for a car like this are just too high. Ordinary people can't afford it.
The Chinese New Year has always been about joy, family gatherings, and visiting relatives, but over the past 20 or 30 years, the culture has shifted. Now, going home for the holidays feels like a competition. Some young people earning just 3,000 yuan a month take out massive loans to buy expensive cars, just to show off to relatives. After the holidays, they drive the car back, but can only afford instant noodles for the rest of the month. The competition in rural areas gets crazier every year. It's not just about saving face anymore, it's about accumulating debt.
Look at this car. What's the point of buying it? It costs 200 yuan per day just to own it. This car has been sitting here for days without being driven. A car worth nearly 400,000 yuan loses about 50,000 to 60,000 yuan in value every year. That's over 200 yuan a day, even if you don't drive it. The first year's insurance is around 10,000 yuan. If you drive 20,000 kilometers a year, fuel costs will exceed 10,000 yuan. Add parking fees, car washes, and other expenses, and you're looking at another 3,000 yuan annually. Altogether, this car costs at least 70,000 to 80,000 yuan a year to maintain. With an average monthly salary of just over 3,000 yuan, I could barely afford it. Do you think buying this car was worth it?
In rural areas, the obsession with keeping up appearances hits a new low every year. Parents who barely earn 1,000 yuan a month will pressure their children into buying cars worth hundreds of thousands. They believe owning a car is the only way to gain respect, even if it means going into debt.
Cars are like nuclear weapons. You don't have to use them, but you can't not have one. Why should I spend 200,000 yuan on a car when I only make 5,000 or 6,000 yuan a month?
In the countryside, it's all about face. Your dad cares a lot about that.
How's 200,000 expensive? Other people are driving cars worth 400,000. You're being ridiculous. You barely make 5,000 yuan a year, and you're saying 200,000 isn't expensive? My income has nothing to do with you buying a car. Other families' kids are driving 400,000 yuan cars. Why are you so useless? I originally planned to buy a car for 130 or 140,000 yuan, but you insisted on 200,000. Now I'm under so much pressure, repaying loans every month and getting mocked online for pretending to be rich.
You two brothers haven't even gotten married yet. That's embarrassing enough.
I honestly think this car is pointless. I barely use it, and just maintaining it, paying insurance, and covering fuel costs me 10,000 to 20,000 yuan a year. That's more than enough for taxis. But you have to buy one. If you don't, people will say you can't afford it. So it's all about face?
That's what life is about, face. A vlogger bluntly stated that competition and jealousy in rural areas has become extreme.
During New Year's, cigarettes costing at least 50 yuan and alcohol starting at 300 yuan are common. A single round of card games can involve hundreds of yuan. People save money all year, only to spend it all in 7 days to impress others. In remote villages, people spend 600,000 to 700,000 yuan on small villas and tens of thousands on cars. But those houses sit empty for most of the year, gathering dust, only being used a few times during the new year. Is it worth it to live your life just to gain respect from people you rarely see? It's not.
One young person said New Year celebrations are exhausting, family gatherings turn into competitions, and they no longer want to go home.
我其实不想回去过年。
I don't want to go back for New Year, not because my family is poor or anything. I've just gotten used to living alone. The lively atmosphere at home feels overwhelming now. Visiting relatives is exhausting. The worst part is the relatives, people you only see once a year, constantly comparing things and prying into your income. You have to make small talk, which I'm not good at. Work is already tiring, and during New Year, I can't even catch a break. I'd rather stay home and rest.
Another young person said they hate New Year celebrations altogether. He said, I don't know if you felt this way, but as the New Year approaches, I feel like a pig waiting to be slaughtered. It's terrifying. Relatives will criticize you in all kinds of ways while showing off how amazing their children are. They act like they care about you, telling you to grow up and earn more money, but what they really want is to make you look bad in front of your parents. The worst part is when they openly ask you in front of your parents, how's your year been? How much money did you make? Are you dating anyone? When are you getting married? Then they turn to your parents and say things like, you need to teach them to be responsible. Look at my daughter. She works in a great city, earns a good salary, and has saved so much money. What about your kid? Don't they care about you getting older? One content creator admitted that as they got older, they began to hate the New Year celebrations more. They said, you spend all year being pushed around by your boss, and then you come home just to endure these relatives. Honestly, if I didn't miss my parents after a year away, there'd be no point in celebrating the New Year at all. Another blogger took a different perspective, saying the essence of New Year is gone. It's all about competition now.
你看看现在过年还有意思吗？
Why is the New Year so meaningless these days? Because people have lost their kindness. Back when people were poor, they helped each other out. In the 70s and 80s, New Year's was full of joy. You stay up all night visiting relatives, and they'd happily give you peanuts, sunflower seeds, and candy. They'd insist you take more. People were kind-hearted then. Now, if you're doing better than someone else, they're jealous and resentful. If you drive a nice car home for New Year's, they'll hate you for it. Their jealousy is so strong, they might as well wish harm on you. Rural life might seem peaceful on the surface, but behind the scenes, it's full of hidden daggers. Visiting relatives now feels like delivering packages. Back then, there was so much to talk about. You couldn't finish in 3 days. Am I right?
Chinese social issues expert Yue Shan agreed, saying this is the harsh reality. Under the Chinese Communist Party's rule, traditional morals were destroyed during political campaigns, and the economy was devastated. Later, during the economic reforms, there was no democracy or freedom, just unchecked corruption. Everything became about money, leading to a moral collapse. Now people don't even dare to help an elderly person who falls in the street. On January 25th, a video surfaced of an elderly person falling in a frozen county in northern Liaoning. No one dared to help. Yue Shan pointed out, when those in power are corrupt, it trickles down. Businesses abandon morals for short-term profits, leading to fake cigarettes, alcohol, medicine, and diplomas, tainted food, corruption, and substandard construction projects. Society is plagued by violence and mistrust. Under the CCP's rule, China is a ticking time bomb. One vlogger humorously explained modern Chinese attitudes toward competition.
There's something more contagious than a virus, envy. Many people live modest but decent lives until their relatives buy a house in the city. During the housewarming party, you visit and realize how clean and beautiful the city is compared to the countryside. Over dinner, everyone talks about their houses and cars. One person brags about buying a place in a prime area, and another says theirs is near a top school. That's when you start feeling like your rural house is worthless. Deep down, you vow to buy a house bigger and better than theirs.
The vlogger added, that's how you end up on a path of no return. You buy a house to compete, then a car for saving face. Sure, you gain some status, but you can't even afford instant noodles anymore. This trend of intense competition during the New Year's has only worsened over time. However, China's economic slowdown is evident. Online videos show empty streets, malls, and markets as New Year approaches. High-speed trains are nearly deserted, and many are opting for cheaper, slower trains to return home. People are lamenting that this might be the quietest New Year ever. Videos have surfaced showing nearly empty high-speed trains, a stark contrast to the usual bustling scenes at train and bus stations. Chinese New Year, traditionally a time for family reunions, now also sees many food delivery workers on the streets of major cities. According to reports from Chinese media, demand for food delivery has surged during the holiday season. With less competition and incentives from platforms, many delivery workers have chosen to stay put and work through the new year, hoping to earn extra money during this relatively quiet period. However, the broader food delivery industry, heavily reliant on the struggling restaurant sector, continues to face challenges. Data from Hongcan Network, a Chinese restaurant industry media outlet, revealed that nearly 3 million restaurants shut down in 2023, marking a record high. Experts predict that the first half of this year may bring an even greater wave of closures. A blogger with 1.2 million followers, known as Nanshan Capital Analysis, recently commented that retail sales data reflects the decline in consumer spending. For example, in November 2023, retail sales in Beijing and Shanghai, two of China's wealthiest cities, fell by approximately 14% compared to the previous year. New Year is expected to be one of the quietest on record. The official Chinese New Year holiday began on January 28th, but many unemployed individuals had already returned to their hometowns as early as November. These early returnees refer to themselves as the first group to go home for the new year, though their early departures were often seen as an unavoidable retreat. A report by Sanlian Life Weekly highlighted that this group included both university students on winter break and unemployed migrant workers. For many workers, returning early was a way to end their urban life with some dignity. In rural China, the phenomenon of relying on parents for financial support is becoming increasingly common. According to a November 4 report from the official publication Banyue Tan, the so-called relying on parents trend involves both young and middle-aged individuals. Some rely on elderly parents to cover daily expenses after years of work. Others depend on their parents for financial support before and after marriage. Some parents even spend their retirement savings to help raise their grandchildren or cover their children's car and mortgage payments. The deteriorating economic situation, exacerbated by years of pandemic lockdowns, the real estate crisis, and industrial overcapacity, has significantly worsened youth unemployment in China. Official data from the National Bureau of Statistics showed that the unemployment rate for laborers aged 16 to 24, excluding students, was 15.7% in December 2024. This figure reflects a year-long trend of high youth unemployment, with a peak of 18.8% in August and a low of 13.2% in June. Critics note that the Chinese government significantly narrows the scope of its unemployment data. Individuals working for just 1 hour a week, university students, rural farmers, and those who have been unemployed long-term but stopped job hunting are excluded from unemployment statistics. A report from Zhaopin, a major job recruitment platform, revealed that the employment rate for 2024 university graduates was only 55.5%, meaning nearly half of college graduates remain unemployed. Independent commentator Du Zheng explained that traditional Chinese New Year's customs originally involved worshipping deities, honoring ancestors, and paying respects to elders, followed by exchanging greetings with friends. However, since the Chinese Communist Party came to power in 1949, this ancient and significant holiday has been repurposed into a tool for ideological indoctrination. The CCP's Spring Festival Gala has been promoted as a new folk tradition, featuring content centered around the party and its ideology, often with increasingly vulgar themes. The deep spiritual and reflective meaning of the New Year, cherished for centuries, has been eroded by the CCP. Du Zheng concluded by saying that only by restoring true traditional culture can society regain a sense of beauty and meaning.